Hello and welcome to another Checkmate Pattern Recognition video. And I've bumped the difficulty up from a lower setting to 2,000 to 3,000, but these are all checkmate in 2. So I think even if you're a beginner, you'll probably be able to figure it out. So let's begin here with the first problem. Pause at any time. And if you're not familiar with checkmate, or any pattern recognition, basically, if you go over a set of puzzles and you do them multiple times, instead of just solving a puzzle once and forgetting about it, you'll remember those patterns better and be able to use them in your own games or in future, tactics. All right, so here we just had a queen moved from the corner here to the open file, attacking our unprotected rook, but it's a checkmate in 2 here. So the first thing you want to do is take a look at all the possible checks, and what pieces here do we even have that can check? Well, it looks like the rook. So the rook could move here and check. That's one possibility. The knight could move here or here and deliver a check. So 3 different possibilities here. But when you choose a check, also look for that follow-up. So let's see here. And pause if you need more time. If not, I'm thinking the best way to go is to check with this knight because the rook is cutting the king off from moving up this way, moving up to the 7th rank. So after check by the knight, the king will be forced to the only square possible, which is here. And then we can checkmate with a pawn. And you don't see as many checkmates with pawns, but they can be easily overlooked, so take a look at those just to make sure you don't miss them. So the pawn will deliver the checkmate because the rook is cutting off the king from running to the d file, and the knight will be covering that square on f6. So here we go. Check and mate with the pawn. All right, and it says that was rated 2840, but since these are checkmate in 2 problems, I think you will do okay on these. So I'll try and do at least 10 problems. All right, what do we have here? And as always, we want to look for checks first, as they are most forcing. Okay, well, it looks like we can't use this pawn. If we chase the king up, and he comes up here, we can't move that pawn to deliver the check because of this pin on our king. So, either rook could move here and deliver a check, but, as I mentioned before, you have to make sure you have a good follow-up. So, I think it really makes a difference what rook you choose. So see if you can figure it out. Pause the video. And if you're ready, here we go. Well, I think we'll bring the other rook over to here. That way it'll be backed up by the rook on h8. And that rook will be able to move forward and deliver the checkmate. So once this rook checks the king, the only place to go would be here, and then the rook would be able to swing down to h4, delivering a mate, with the help of the king cutting off all these squares here. So here we go, check and mate. So you can take a look at this pattern and notice how the pawn is actually helping as well. The king is helping. A lot of times you need 3 pieces or even more Of course, sometimes less, but an average is about 3 pieces to deliver a checkmate. So that was a 2109 rated problem. On to the next one. The king is moving up here, attacking the knight, along with this rook. But we need to find the mate in 2. So how can we go about it? Well, look for the checks first. Of course, the rook could deliver a check here, but then it would just be captured. The knight could deliver a check here or here. If the knight dropped back to d4, that would block the other rook. Maybe that would cause a problem. So, and if we moved up here, the rook would just capture the knight. But maybe that would be okay, because it would get that knight out of the way of the rook, and the rook would cover all these squares. And then that would allow this move. So that's what we want to look at. If we move this knight up here first, the king has multiple ways to go, here or here, and then we'd have to move the knight out of the way. So instead of moving this pawn, I think it's better to just move the knight here. And once that happens, rook will cover all these squares. The other rook will cut the king off here. Of course, the rook will have to capture the knight, and then we can deliver the mate with this pawn. All right. So, also when you're solving problems, try and figure them out in your head if you can, as much as possible. So here we go. Check and mate with the pawn. So, that average of about 3 pieces. So it takes 3 pieces to deliver the checkmate here, including this pawn. We had a knight in the way, but all right, let's move on, try and get 10 problems done. So we're on problem number 4. And which way should we go here? All right. We want to look at all the checks first. So, this rook obviously can go here. The rook could go here. If this rook goes here, the other rook could just capture. So, maybe that doesn't work so well. All right. If we go here, the king is very limited on where it can go. It can only go there. But then do we have a good follow-up? It appears that we do. So take a look at that, see if you can figure it out. Pause if you have to. If not, here we go. We're going to move this up here. This rook prevents the king from pushing to b3. So king will only be able to go here. And then the other rook can swing over and deliver the mate. So check and mate here. All right, on to the 5th problem. We're almost halfway through. Okay, we have queen and rook hovering around this king. How do we get the win here? Okay. Well, take a look at it, see if you can figure it out. Look at those checks first. So the queen can deliver a check here, 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 of course, which it would just be captured by the king or the rook. We have a rook check here, rook check here. All right. Well, take a look at it. Pause if you need more time. If not, I think if we go here, this is forcing because it attacks. It cuts the king off. The king can only go to here. And then we deliver a mate with the rook on e3. So check and mate here. A great pattern where the queen backs up the rook. Now, of course, this right here, this rook was preventing the king from running. All right, we're halfway there. Let's get through the rest of these. We just had a knight launch forward. What pieces do we have attacking here? And with that knight moving forward, there's a discovered attack on our queen. So we need to look at the checks. All right, queen can capture the pawn, but then it would just be captured by the king. Queen could go here, but the rook could capture. Queen could go here. And the king would have to run, or the knight could block here. Or I guess a pawn could push forward and block. All right. Well, we have to look and make sure we have a good follow-up. So this one is a little bit trickier here. If we move this knight out of the way, the queen could possibly deliver a check down here. And the bishop is preventing the king from running up here. The pawn is covering there. But if we take time to move that knight, the king could capture this pawn here. And then what do we do? I think we'll be all right. So, all right, take a look at this one. It's a little trickier. Hopefully you can figure it out. As always, pause if you have to. But I think I'm going to move the king up here. And that will cover this square, checking the king. It covers the e5 square. It gets out of the way of the queen so the queen can deliver an attack. Now, the problem is what if the king runs here? If the king runs here, do we have a way to check? The only way would be capturing here, but then the queen could block. I think the king would escape there. All right. Wow, okay, this one is definitely a little trickier. Okay, if we capture here and the king captures, do we have any follow-up? No, I don't see anything. And do we have to actually check the king? We don't always have to check on the first move. But, it looks like we might have to check here. So, we can't even move this pawn because of the rook. So, back to this move, what I thought it was originally. Okay, maybe we go here instead. If we go here, delivering the check, what are the king's options? Okay, knight to e6 check. That prevents the king from running here. Covers that square. Okay. The king is covering all of these. This pawn is covering that. Bishop covers that along with the pawn. So I think after this we can bring the queen here and deliver a mate, no matter what our opponent does. All right, check, and the queen here delivers the mate. Okay, 4 more to go. Let me try and speed this up a little bit. Okay. All right. This one looks familiar. So that's what I was saying. If you go over these, you might see these patterns and remember these. But if you don't remember this or didn't see a previous video that may have had this or a similar checkmate pattern in it, look for the checks first. That's your hint. So, this queen can definitely check in many ways. Here, 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 or here. But which one is best? And what follow-up do you have after that? So, let's see here. And let's see if there's more than one way to do this. So if we go here, the king, now remember, when a king is checked, there are 3 or less options, or at most 3 options: capture, block, or run. So if we go here, taking the pawn, checking, queen cannot be captured. Can the queen be blocked? No. So the king must run, and the only place to run is here. And now, do we have a mate by going here? Okay, that might be one way. What if, and maybe that's the only way, because if we go here, the knight could block and give the king an escape hatch. So we have to use the queen here and then the bishop here to deliver the mate. All right, so check and mate here. A great pattern of bishop and queen working together, as well as this bishop preventing the king from running away. All right, 3 more to go. What now? Okay, look for the checks first. Of course, the queen can capture bishop, but king could recapture. If the queen goes here, it would be captured. Here, it could be captured by the king both times. So, what other checks do we have? Maybe this knight All right, so that looks good. I think we have a good follow-up with the knight move here. So if the knight checks, what can white do? The king is preventing the king, or excuse me, the queen is preventing the king from running down here. So with the check by the knight, the only possible place is here. And then the queen will mate here by taking the bishop. So check and mate. All right, 2200 rated. We have 2 left. Hopefully you did well on these. Let's see here. Well, we just had a capture by the queen, I think. And now there's a threat of going here. So we need to move quickly here. And we have pieces hovering around the king. Rook, bishop, pawn. Both of these pawns are cutting off the king's escape. The king is helping as well here. So the king cannot go here, here, well, anywhere here because of the rook. So, all right, see if you can figure this out. The king cannot go anywhere because of that rook. Well, on that E file. Can't go here, can't go here. The only place the king can go is here. So, look at all your checks. Hopefully that'll help you. All right, pause if you need more time. If not, I'm thinking that we might need a pawn check here. So if we go here, delivering a check, the pawn can't be captured, blocked. The only thing that can be done is for the king to run to here. And then we deliver a mate with the bishop here. So check and mate. So look at this pattern. And this comes in handy in a fianchettoed position because you have all these weak squares here. And if the rook and bishop can line up through here, usually the king will be on the back rank or somewhere stuck back here. Not often is it out this far like this. But here we had the pawns, bishop and rook all working together. All right, on to the final problem. What do we have here? Queen just moved here to F2. All right. How can we deliver mate? We do have 3 pieces. As I mentioned, it usually takes an average of about 3 pieces to go after the enemy king. So we could go here. If we're looking for checks first, that's an obvious check. And the rook will prevent the king from going on to the G file. The other rook prevents the king from going to the E file. So all we need is a check. The problem is the king will be able to run up here. So that is the issue. If we check with the rook, the king can run up here. And then we don't have a good follow-up. So maybe we need to do something different first. Need to use our knight. So the knight can check here. The knight could also check here. And what that does, either one of these moves, they do prevent the king. They attack the king. Once he runs here, the rook can move up here or here, delivering the mate. So let me just make sure that there's not a difference in which direction we go. Okay, there is a difference because of this bishop. So we will not be able to bring this rook up, which means we can't go here. So we have to go the other direction. So pause that, see if you can figure it out in your head, if you haven't already. All right, so we're going to go this way, attacking. The king will be forced to go here, and then we can bring this rook up here. So check and mate, rated 2944. So that's one thing. When you know it's a mate in 2, you can solve much harder and more difficult puzzles, because there's a mate in the position. In a normal game, you don't really know that. So in the future, I should do some random puzzles where it's more like a game and you don't know what the tactic will be. But here, I just wanted to reinforce checkmating patterns. And perhaps I'll do future videos where I'll do some mates in 3 and they'll be more difficult. All right, anyway, feel free to leave comments at any time. I always like hearing from viewers and subscribers. And like and subscribe to support the channel if you haven't already. Thank you for watching and have a super chess day.